Hello everyone. For years, I've chased the perfect nightmare. The kind that doesn't just frighten you, but lingers like an old friend you can't quite shake off. But no matter how dark my stories turn, they always carry a trace of something softer. Something Bond himself would recognize. The melancholy of a lonely train whistle at midnight. The ghost of a smile in a crumbling colonial bungalow. The way even the scariest tales here are wrapped in the warmth of a storyteller's voice. In this collection, you'll meet spirits who mourn more than they menace, villages where the past never truly dies, and horrors that feel almost like home. Because that's the secret, isn't it? The best terrors aren't the ones that jump out. They're the ones that were there all along, hiding in the corners of your childhood, in the stories your grandmother told you, in the pages of a book you once loved. So light a lamp, pull up a blanket, and let the hills speak. Just don't listen too closely. Some voices, once heard, never leave you. Let's begin. Today's story is She Waits Beneath the Coral Tree, Chapter 1. The Old Bungalow. The night had been warm, the rain incessant, and I slept on the veranda rather than in the house. In a few hours, a taxi would arrive to drive me to the railway station. First by an express train to Delhi, then a flight to Calcutta, where home and family awaited. But for the moment, in this still hour before the dawn, the old bungalow and I stood our final watch together. I had arrived here 6 months previously, posted from Calcutta to this isolated spot 20 kilometers outside Shimla's main town. What should have been a straightforward exercise in finding a place to stay turned into an unplanned ordeal. The handful of houses in the village were small and expensive, their windows opening directly into other people's lives. Then I discovered this bungalow. Built in the late 1800s as a hunting lodge for some British officer, it had later served as a colonial administrator's summer retreat. The property agent's papers showed a succession of short-term tenants after independence, none staying more than a season. My colleagues warned me against it. Too isolated, they said. Too old. But the moment I stepped across the neglected garden, under the towering deodars and age-old oak trees, through the rhododendrons scattering scarlet petals like blood drops, I knew I would claim it. The rent was ludicrously low, scarcely a third of what my apartment in Calcutta had rented for. But what finally settled it was the quiet. Not absence of noise, but that specific mountain stillness that gets into your marrow. The garden itself was bigger than my entire Calcutta complex, and for the first time in my life as an adult, I could walk outside and not automatically see another human face. Now, as morning colored the sky, I saw a breeze rustle the deodar leaves, their shadows dancing on the lawn like agitated spirits. A coral blossom dropped silently to the ground somewhere in the garden. The taxi would arrive shortly. Chapter 2. The Girl in the Red Ribbon. I must have fallen asleep once more, for when I woke, the grayness of dawn had turned heavier. I could smell the petrichor, a rain-scented earth, filling my lungs, and something else, something a little sweet and rotting. It was then that I saw her. She couldn't have been more than 8 or 9. Her black eyes too large for her face, her pigtails pulled back with a sparkling red ribbon. She wore no shoes, her feet dusty as if she'd crossed the garden at dawn. I shivered. The closest house was over a kilometer up the hill, and I was quite sure that no young children lived in it. Where had this girl come from, alone, at this time of night? "Hello," I said, sitting up. "Do you live around here?" She nodded, but her eyes did not waver from mine. There was something unsettling in the way she was standing. Too steady, too watchful. "You're like me," I fibbed, trying a smile. "I prefer wandering alone as well." The words burst out before I knew what I was saying. Perhaps she reminded me of my own childhood. That hot day spent climbing the branch in my grandfather's village, where the scent of ripening mangoes and wood smoke hung on the air. But all she did was nod again, without expression. Can I do something for you? I asked.
I would like some flowers,
She said, nodding at the coral tree.
but I cannot get them.
Chapter 3. The flowers that were never meant to be picked. The coral tree was in the garden, its red flowers shining against the gray morning light. The branches were fat and easy to climb. But when I broke off a flowering branch, the wood was abnormally wet, the sap sticking to my fingers like something warm and living. I shouldn't be doing this, I told her, letting the branch fall into her hands. The flowers were too bright, too flawless to pluck.
Don't worry,
She said, holding the blooms to her body as if they were valuable. The horn of the taxi honked at the gate. I descended, getting my sticky fingers on my pants. I have to leave now, I told her. Will you be okay here by yourself? She nodded gravely.
I'm always here.
When I went back after piling my bags, she vanished. Only the red ribbon stayed behind, rolled on the soggy ground like a curled snake. Chapter 4. The Caretaker's Secret. Before leaving, I walked to the caretaker's outhouse near the rusted iron gates. Dharam Singh, an old man with milky eyes, sat on a wooden stool outside his quarters, sipping chai from a clay cup. The morning mist clung to his shawl as he regarded me silently.
Sir, are you leaving?
He asked, though he already knew. Yes, I said, handing him the keys. Then, hesitating, I added, there was a girl here this morning. Dark hair, red ribbon. Do you know whose child she is? Dharam Singh's fingers tightened around the keys. He exhaled slowly, the steam from his chai curling between us like a specter.
No children live here, not anymore.
He said. Then who was she? He set the cup down with deliberate care.
Long ago, a British doctor used to live in this house. He had a daughter, small, quiet. She loved the garden, especially the coral tree.
A coldness settled in my stomach. What happened to her? Dharam Singh's voice dropped to a murmur.
They say the doctor was not a good man. He experimented with medicines. In the year 1923, when the influenza came, one night, the girl fell sick. Fever so high her skin burned. Instead of taking her to the hospital, he locked her in the attic, saying he would cure her himself.
His cracked lips twisted.
Not to protect her. To study the fever.
The wind rustled the deodar branches overhead, their shadows stretching like skeletal fingers across the path.
She never came out. Some say she died up there, calling for her mother. Others say she tried to escape, climbing down the old oak beside the house, but the branch broke.
Dharam Singh said. He didn't finish. He didn't need to. I swallowed hard. And now, the old man's milky eyes flickered toward the bungalow.
Now, sometimes, when the coral tree blooms, she comes back, asking for flowers.
A shiver ran through me. Why me? Dharam Singh gave me a long, sad look.
Maybe because you listened.
Final scene. The departure. The taxi rattled down the gravel path, the bungalow shrinking in the rearview mirror. As we turned the corner, I glanced back one last time, and there she was. The girl stood beneath the coral tree, her red ribbon fluttering in the wind. She raised a hand, not in farewell, but as if in invitation. Stop the car, I said suddenly. The driver braked.
What is it?
I stared at the empty garden. The ribbon was gone. The tree stood silent. Nothing, I murmured. Keep driving. But as the distance grew, I knew this wasn't over. The house would wait. And so would she. The end. Like, comment, and subscribe for more such horror stories.